Welcome to part 4 of the devlog on Corrupt System, a round-based survival first-person shooter with a hint of roguelike that I'm working on. Over the past month I was very busy with the viewfinder tutorials, and I'm glad a lot of people have enjoyed them, but I still did manage to get some time to move forward in my plans for Corrupt System. Last devlog I went over the changes I wanted to make to the project, and this month I managed to get most of them implemented. So for this devlog I'm going to go over what I did, but I thought I might also break down how I went about doing it and why. So I started the month off by browsing the internet and landed upon data assets, which was something completely new to me and prompted me to rethink my weapon system entirely. For those who don't know what a data asset is, it is essentially a means of storing data as an object inside your files. In my case, it acted as a replacement for data tables and structures, which are slower and don't allow for functions to be utilized inside of them. For people who use Unity, it's the equivalent of a scriptable object. Using it alongside a base actor class, I was quickly able to remake my weapon system more scalable and with extra functionality. With this new knowledge, I moved forwards to my next goal of the month, correctly implementing consumables to the game. So just like the weapons, I started off with a data asset, which I then used as a variable inside an actor class. The consumables are drops that the player will be able to spawn himself, but should also be dropped when an enemy is killed with a certain percentage of chance. These consumables are things like double points, insta-kill, etc. I opted to implement most of the logic inside the game mode as it controls enemy spawn and as such has a function for when an enemy dies, and because I believe it's best to keep the array of these consumables inside the place where they are actually called in the first place. The final use for the data assets, and by far the most obvious one, was the boost, the main roguelike aspect of the project. Just like the consumables, I used the game mode to store the arrays of the boosts. But this time I needed to do a bit more due to different rarities in the boosts. Unlike the consumables and weapons though, there was no need to create an actor as the boosts are simply stored in the player assets and apply effects. So to keep things more organized, I added an actor component to the player to store all this information. Most of the boosts are separated into 3 types of data assets. The first is the base class or integers. These boosts can be stacked and the effects are mainly just passives, something along the line of gaining increased movement speed, gaining increased health for X%. The second are called activates. These boosts are immediately activated upon receiving them and they don't need to be stored, things like receive plus 250 scrap. But having them as a data asset is easier to call them, which is why they exist even if they're not stored like the others. And the final one is called Boolean. Upon receiving these boosts, they act as a switch of sorts, and either act as a passive boost, but that can't be stacked, or remain dormant. For example, upon receiving what would be a mortal bit of damage, you become hidden from enemies for the next 10 seconds. So as such, it doesn't do anything once it's activated, but can do something if it is present in the list of boosts the player has equipped. And with that was most of the month up. So I finished off with some smaller tasks such as adding a proper display for the player stats, for the kills, headshot, scraps, and the currently equipped boosts. For the headshots, I thought it would be more appropriate to use an enemy that would be more like the final version, so I replaced the model with a custom one I made and added some logic to the damage system, and the headshot stats were fully functional from that point on. With that, we've reached the end of the devlog. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you like this approach to the devlog more than the previous ones. I look forward to seeing you in the next devlog. Goodbye.